I've been running Facebook ads since 2016. I've been running my own agency since 2020, and we've worked with tons and tons of e-commerce brands to help them scale their revenue. And a big way in which we help them scale their revenue is through Facebook ads. It's where we spend most of the money every single month. And what I've found over the years is that most e-commerce brands are focusing on the wrong things, and they're trying to scale things in the wrong way. Here's what I mean by this. If you run an e-commerce brand that's doing, at least 7 figures per year in revenue, you know that ad creative for your Facebook ads is one of the most important variables. Yes, you need to have product market fit. You need to have a strong offer. You need to have a good conversion rate, a good AOV. But beyond all of that, if you don't produce enough winning ad creatives on a consistent basis, then it becomes very difficult to scale your Facebook ad spend. I mean that their approach to finding winning ad creatives is flawed. And what most e-commerce brand owners and even agencies do is that they don't have a structured system that consistently spits out winning ad creatives. They come up with these great ideas, these brainstorms, but then they mash these ads together and just test them. And if they don't work, those ads are discarded. Okay, maybe they look at the hook rate, the hold rate, whatever, and they try to learn from that. But what I want to share is a completely different process and approach to not only making your ad creatives, but in terms of like analyzing those ad creatives and being able to find winning ad creatives on a more consistent basis, which is ultimately the goal. Like, trust me, running an agency and working with tons of e-commerce brands, spending millions of dollars on Facebook ads, you don't want to be playing the game of just pure volume of ad creatives. You don't want to be playing that game of, it's a hamster wheel of producing hundreds of ads every single month where your win ratio is very low. And what I want to introduce you to is the win ratio. The win ratio is the percentage of ads that you produce that end up actually winning. And before we actually get into the meat of this video, just want to share some proof that you can trust the information I'm going to be sharing with you today in this video. Just a quick refresh on the Shopify dashboard for one of our clients, last 12 months, just over $9 million in revenue. So let's get right into it. Winning ad has its own definition, right? It's, of course, it has to perform on target in terms of CPA, ROAS, whatever that may be, but it also has to sustain a certain level of spend. We don't really see a winning ad unless it can really sustain tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in ad spend, depending on the client that we're working with and depending on what our baseline for a winning ad creative is. You should always base a winning ad creative based on your current baselines, right? And trying to beat those averages. So with that out the way, what I want to show you is an approach to thinking about ad creatives in terms of frameworks. And I'm going to be sharing 3 different examples with you today from an 8-figure brand called August. They're a women's healthcare brand. And I'm going to be going through these videos, going to be showing you the videos, showing you the ads. I'm going to be showing you not just the framework, but also the specific elements within that framework that make up the framework. And to give you some background, the reason why this is important is because if you try and just do volume, you're going to get burnt out, and you're playing the game against the big boys like Temu, like Goli Nutrition, that are just producing thousands of ads every single month, and they have a lot more capability to do that than, a small e-com brand, right? So what you want to do is you also, like, volume is important, don't get me wrong, but you also want to focus on quality. Now, if you can take a more scientific approach to the way you produce ad creatives and the way you learn from your creatives, it allows you to increase the amount of creatives that become winners, right? So now instead of having to produce 20 ads to find one winner, let's just say you can produce even 15 to find one winner, right? That's going to make a huge difference in terms of your time and efficiency, but also the amount of money you're spending on all this content and producing these creatives, right? Especially if you have a team of editors, creative strategists, like whatever it is, right? So that's really the background. By the way, if you're a new viewer here, my name is Jordan Hayes. I actually run a marketing agency where we help e-commerce brands scale their revenue profitably. Now, if you're running an e-commerce brand, you're doing over 100K per month in revenue, and you're facing challenges with scale, maybe your ads or your funnel is not working as well as it used to or should be, or even if it's just a lack of time and resource to put into scaling this part of the business, then that's exactly what we help with. So down below this video, there'll be a link to book a call with me. We'll have a conversation about your business, learn more about the challenges, your objectives, and see if there's a fit for us to work together. Worst case scenario, I can provide some insights as we're seeing with our other clients to help you at your current stage of your business. And as I mentioned, this is for brands who are doing at least 100K per month in revenue, and they need help with scaling and obviously want to scale profitably. And in the way in which we help brands scale is we provide services across both customer acquisition and customer retention, done for you services which are completely hands-off. We take care of everything for you. And that includes media buying, CRO, landing pages, ad creative, email marketing, SMS marketing, overall growth strategy, lifetime value optimization, all that stuff, okay? So with that said, let's get back to the video. When I talk about ad frameworks, I talk about these structured ads that are designed in a specific way to grab attention, to hold attention, to increase interest, increase desire, and then get someone to take action. Okay. And all this is based on consumer psychology because the frameworks themselves are proven to work because they're direct response, because they're proven to drive sales and drive performance, right? Now, within each of these frameworks, as I mentioned, there are modules, there are individual elements, and you can think of these as individual ingredients that could make up a recipe, right? They don't have to be in a specific order, they don't have to be in specific amounts. You can change them around and still get, a cake or a dish, right? A pie, whatever you want to call it. It's going to taste different, there's going to be different ingredients, but ultimately you can still get a pie, right? So what I'm trying to say here is that there's no one size fits all approach. What you want to do is really the key here is understanding your customer and doing enough research so that the angles of the ads, the words that you're using, the people that you're using as content creators, everything is seamless and aligned with the person that you're trying to get to purchase your products. That is really the underlying principle, right? Then from there, you build these frameworks, and I can send over, if you access the D2C growth vault below, you can find the winning frameworks that we use internally at my agency Hays. We have some of them there. But that's what I hope to share with you today, and I guarantee that if you watch this video to the end, if you see these 3 different ads, which are 3 very different styles of ads, and you understand the frameworks and the elements and the key takeaways that I'm going to be sharing with you as to how you can actually apply this within your own brand, then you're going to come away with a much more scientific thinking approach and method to producing these ad creatives. And once you apply that in the right way, you're going to have a very high likelihood of increasing the win ratio, the win rate of the ads that you're producing for Facebook ads. And as a result, you can find more winning ads with less effort, and you can find those winning ads more consistently, which is really the key. Because if you, let's just say, to give you an example, you scale up your ad spend because one ad is really driving the account, that ad stops working, you have to scale your ad spend down. That causes, you lose momentum, right? You have to scale up, scale down. That affects top line revenue, especially if you're trying to scale your business and you're increasing costs and then your top line revenue decreases. Now your profitability takes an impact. Maybe you just ordered more stock because you've seen that the revenue is going up and up and up. Okay, we need more stock to fulfill demand, but then your revenue declines because the ads stop working, and now you have all this stock that's coming. You have all this cash that you fronted to get the stock. It just creates a lot of issues, right? So the ideal scenario is that we have momentum and that we can consistently increase the ad spend month over month, right? We can continue growing, right? And of course, there are going to be months where you don't, beat the last month. That is the reality of running a business. But what you want to do is the overall trend. You want to be looking year over year. Are you growing? Okay. And ultimately, that's the goal. So it all comes back to that. It all comes back to profitability. At my agency, Hays, as I said, we've been working with e-commerce brands for years, and we combine marketing and finance together because ultimately what you're seeing on the P&L should and directly impacts what you should be achieving on your marketing targets, right? And you should have clear goals for profit and reverse engineer your marketing targets and efforts to achieve those profit goals. If you or your agency is not doing that, then I have another video on my channel going through the P&L and just showing you how we took a brand from unprofitable to profitable in just a few months by taking a very forensic approach to analyzing the P&L and brutally optimizing it to make sure that we're profitable. And every brand should be doing that pretty much all the time. So without further ado, let's get into these ads themselves. I just wanted to set the scene, and hopefully that gives you some context as to the way that we think about things at my agency, Hays. If you're interested in us doing all this for you and helping you scale seamlessly, we provide done-for-you services across ad creative and meta media buying. And you can check us out. There's a link below this video. I'd recommend checking us out and booking a call if you're interested. But let's get right into the video. I'm actually going to start with this ad right here. And this ad is a UGC Demo and Comparison. Now, as I mentioned, the brand that we're going to be looking at is an 8-figure brand called August, right? They are a women's healthcare brand. They sell tampons, period cups, pads, liners, and they've been around for a few years. They've been very successful. They have, as you can see, a very good presence on Instagram, followers. Just a side note, very, very good branding, very modern and very appealing to the demographic and age of customer that they're going after, right? So let's start by watching this video right here.
I am absolutely mind blown. For the first time, we did the ring test. So we got 2 pads, one August pad and this drugstore pad, same priced, same absorbency. When we squeeze this one, look how much liquid comes out of it. Again, we put about 80 milliliters of liquid in both of these pads, same amount of liquid. So most pads like this one take 5 to 8 centuries to decompose and have enough plastic for 3 to 5 plastic bags. Plastic is not very absorbent. Then this is the August night pad. August pads are fully biodegradable within 6 to 12 months and have no plastic. And look, same amount of liquid, we're wringing it, nothing is coming out. It is a completely leak-proof pad. And even when we squeeze it, which is kind of like if you were to toss and turn at night or you're walking around or working out, the liquid is going to be completely locked in, and that's because our pads have a layer of our patented Japanese super absorbent polymer, which is extremely absorbent and also locks in any liquid that goes into it.
Okay, so 1 minute long, and I think this is an amazing ad. The reason why is because, first of all, it's a product demo, which historically over the years has worked extremely well. And within that, it's show don't tell, right? By product demo, you are showing how it works and showing the outcome rather than just telling someone. And then showing is much, much more powerful. If I just was to sit here and tell you about how great a product is, you're gonna be like, okay, cool. Maybe if you really trust me, you'll go check it out. But if I just show you and I show you the outcome that you want, you're much more likely to say, hang on, this product actually works. I need to go and buy this, right? If you really needed that solution, right? So that's the first thing. And then the other thing in here is obviously comparison, right? One of the best direct response principles is comparison, right? Either comparison of before and after, or us versus them. Us versus them is what we see here, right? Most pads versus the August pad. And you're taking a very traditional product, what people are usually used to seeing, and you're comparing it to something new, something that is completely different in terms of the demo itself and how, obviously what we saw there, the ring test. Let's actually break this ad down step by step, element by element, so that we can understand how this ad is put together and just give you a better understanding of the framework that's being used. Okay, so the hook is obviously, shock and curiosity. The ring test, mind blown. 2 pads, same price, same amount of liquid. And it starts by saying, I'm absolutely mind blown, right? It creates immediate intrigue and sets up a compelling product test, right? It also opens a curiosity loop. Humans are curious by nature. And if you can open a curiosity loop, which just means that you start by, you entice curiosity, right? You open it with curiosity, but then you don't satisfy it immediately, right? And it creates an open loop. And what the human wants is the human wants that loop to be satisfied, right? It basically wants to know what the outcome is. So this is a very powerful human psychology way of getting attention, right? And then also establishing attention in a way that you can hold it very easily, right? Which is smart because that attention is scarce nowadays and it's hard to hold attention. So it's a very good way to actually open an ad. Then we go into the direct comparison setup itself. So it just kind of sets the scene, right? Introduces the drugstore pad versus the August pad. Same price, same absorbency, positioning the test is fair and objective, right? I think this is important when you're doing these sort of tests. When you're comparing the products, you're saying, here are the conditions. Here is, what we are using as kind of the baseline, right? And what are those that just sets the scene for like a fair test that will come and that will follow. Then it goes into the visual proof of the inferior product, right? So it starts by showing the drugstore pad leaking badly under pressure, building contrast and suspense. And I think it's also smart to start with the one that the consumers are most familiar with, right? Kind of don't start with your product, start with them. It also sets your product up for a better kind of closing and better finale. So as we saw there, it starts with the inferior product. And as it's doing that, it's educating, right? It's educating on both the facts of like what makes the drugstore pad not that good, right? And it's things that customers probably don't know, right? It's like they did not know that it takes 500 to 800 years to decompose, which is crazy. It does not know that it contains plastic, right? So all of this is setting the scene for an introduction of a product and a solution that is the opposite and that kind of solves these issues as well that the customer is seeing in the visual, right? So this is just, again, you don't just want to educate customers on the benefits and what makes your product so great. You also want to say, like, of course, if we were just to say fully biodegradable in 6 to 12 months and we're not using a comparison, the customers don't know how long most pads take to decompose, right? They might say, well, maybe it takes like 2 years, right? They don't know unless we tell them. So when you're doing comparison, you always want to say like these products that you're used to using or whatever, X, Y, Z, and this is why it's bad, right? Then you want to compare that to your product, right? And it's exactly what this brand did. If we just watch this video again as to when they get to the comparison, just as a reminder as to how they do this.
2 pads, 1 August pad, and this drugstore pad, same price, same absorbency. When we squeeze this one, look how much liquid comes out of it. Again, we put about 80 milliliters of liquid in both of these pads, same amount of liquid. So most pads like this one take 5 to 8 centuries to decompose and have enough plastic for 3 to 5 plastic bags. Plastic is not very absorbent. Then this is the August night pad. August pads are fully biodegradable within 6 to 12 months.
Okay, so you see there how we've set the scene for the comparison, and then now it's very easy to introduce, because again, we're anchoring customers, like even with this 500, 800 years to decompose, even if we said it takes 12 years, like the anchor is on 500, 800 years, that pretty much anything that's significantly less than that is going to look and sound good, right? Fully biodegradable in 6 to 12 months. If we just said that alone, customers might say, really? Like it takes that long? You know, like customers, maybe they don't know, they don't have a base point to compare against. So this is what I'm getting at here, and hopefully this been able to drive this point home.
Months and have no plastic. And look, same amount of liquid, we're wringing it, nothing is coming out. It is a completely leak-proof pad. And even when we squeeze it, which is kind of like if you were to...
Okay, so one thing I would do maybe to improve this video even further as an iteration, as a test, would be to, like, rather than starting with the pads already with the liquid on them, first of all, I would show the packaging. I would take the pad out the packaging for each to show the brands, and then I would put them in the kind of these trays, and then I would take 2 same cups, like same cup sizes, almost like a lab, kind of these lab tubes, these test tubes that have like the measurements, and to show that it's the same amount of liquid, pour them in, and then I would say, like, put like a little time lapse for like the absorption time. The reason why is because sometimes, like, some customers are going to be skeptical and they're going to say, well, is it the same amount of liquid? Like, it doesn't really look the same. They both get the same amount of absorption time, like all these questions. And I think that would be a good iteration to overcome some of those objections that customers have in their mind. Okay. So then we saw the August product demo. If we just, continue with this, where we're basically comparing August against the drugstore pad, and real life use case scenarios, for example, contextualizes the performance. So it doesn't just say like the reason why the ring test is important and why you should, and why I guess it's valid, right? Is because that's usually what happens when you're sleeping, walking, working out, right? So it's just connecting that to real life use case scenarios. And then finally, it educates more on the technology reveal so the customer understands why this is the case, right? Like, why is it so absorbent? Why isn't it leaking? So we add education, which is the patented Japanese super absorbent polymer, and then we use scientific evidence to back the authority and closes the loop on why it works. Okay, so if we just go back to this video right here, and we'll just come to the end so that we can see that again.
The liquid is going to be completely locked in, and that's because our pads have a layer of our patented Japanese super absorbent polymer, which is extremely absorbent and also locks in any liquid that goes into it.
Okay, so that's it right there. Notice how there's no CTA. I would add a CTA to this video to make it stronger. And again, that will be an iteration that I would do. Maybe if we're not seeing a high click-through rate, we could add a call to action, right? To basically say, look, if you're tired of XYZ, if you want to do XYZ, whatever, like state the outcome that the customer wants and the problem that they want to solve, then head over to itsaugust.co, click the link below, like whatever it is, just have some sort of CTA to drive more action, okay? So that's what I would do here. Let's go through some key takeaways. So if you're running an e-commerce brand, you can replicate this format by pairing live product demos with direct competitor comparison, as we spoke about. And when you visually prove the superiority in real life scenarios, you overcome objections before they form, okay? And you can also add in technical explanation, a proprietary feature, and then you're not just selling, you're educating and differentiating, okay? That's really the key here, is that, these videos are interesting to watch for the consumer as well, because we're not trying to sell them. It doesn't come across as a hard sell, but it flies under the radar, right? We are actually selling them because we're using these consumer psychology principles that don't make it seem like it's an ad, but ultimately are convincing the customer that this product is better and that they should go and purchase it. Okay, so that's the first one. Now let's go through this middle one right here. And this is about personal confession and product trust. So let's watch this video end to end, and then we shall analyze it in detail. Just zoom into this one here.
The secret is that I'm on day 3 of my period, and apparently right at August clip on, and I'm not leaking, that's for sure. It's super absorbent, and there's this braided string feature which catches all the last little drips, so even though, like, it will be super expanded, it's gonna leach. I trust it. When I get out, I'll probably be able to hang out and helps the last couple hours of starting clip for my August tampon for reminding me that summer is not over yet.
Okay, so this ad is very different to the one we just watched. And I would say it's very relatable. It's very, like, really raw and organic, right? So notice how this ad is so native and so raw. It doesn't really look like an ad at all. And there's a key reason as to why this ad works, right? It is very relatable. Okay, so let's dive into the actual elements of this framework. So first of all, the hook, again, relatable confession. I have a secret, opens curiosity loop, as we spoke about from the previous ad. Again, very important to not just grabbing attention, but holding attention as well. And it also grounds the viewer in a real life personal moment, day 3 of the period, right? So very relatable. And also the visual itself is very interesting. The fact that she's in a pool and she's like kind of coming out of the pool, it just creates a very good pattern interrupt on the feed. Then we have emotional reassurance, establishes the main benefit. I'm not leaking, a key concern for any tampon user, right? And again, it's show don't tell, kind of, right? Because she's in the pool, and it kind of adds that context to the video itself and the problem and solution. right? Then it goes into the feature highlight, super absorbent braided string feature, which catches all the last little drips and explains obviously the unique selling point there, the braided string feature. That is what, that's what makes this product different and is going to pique some curiosity again in the users to like, I'd never heard of that before. Let me understand, let me see what that is and maybe how it can help me. Okay, it's also practical and memorable as well. So if we just rewatch this section of the video just to refresh us on that.
And I'm not leaking, that's for sure. It was super absorbent, and there's this braided string feature which catches all the last little drips. So even though it'll be super expanded, it's gonna be. I trust it. When I hit up.
Okay, so there we go with the feature benefits. So there we have the feature highlights. Then it goes into the demonstrated confidence with I trust it, as we just saw. And even when I get out, I'll probably be able to hang out in the sun, right? As she was saying there, expresses full trust in the product across real usage situations, moving, hanging out, lasting coverage, etc. And finally, it ends with the emotional close, which ends on a playful, feel-good note, which summer isn't over yet, which is also relevant, right? Because we're in summer. And it reinforces both function and also freedom and quality of life within that as well, which is ultimately one of the outcomes and the desires that the customer wants, by proxy of having a tampon that works better, right? So that is it for this ad. Let's go with the final ad right here, which is a visual demo and also some informational layering, as we're going to see when we watch this ad right now. So let's play this one.
I want to show you every August pad product and what it looks like when you open it. Okay, so this is the liner. This is the smallest one. And then we have the day pad, which has one set of wings. The August night pad, which has two set of wings. And then the August long night pad, which has two set of wings, but is longer to kind of give you that extra protection. And I wanted to lay them out so you could kind of get like a size reference. So the liner holds 10 milliliters. The day pad is 60, night pad is 80, and night long is 100 milliliters. And this is kind of to give you a size comparison. There you go. So hopefully that gives you more info on what these look like. That way when you're purchasing them, you kind of have an idea.
Okay, so this ad is very much for a product-aware audience, right? They've already seen August. They know what the product does. They have likely been to the website and they've seen a bunch of ads, okay? What we're trying to do here is we're trying to get them from that product-aware to, I guess, most aware and then obviously purchasing stage by just breaking down and handling some objections, okay? So maybe, of course, by shopping online, you don't really know the size of the products, right? You can see images online, but that doesn't really give you a good view or understanding of the product size and also the difference in the product sizes between them, right? Between the different products themselves. So the hook itself, immediately sets the expectation for a visual, transparent breakdown. If that's a question I have, then I'm going to stop and watch this video, okay? Product showcase, where we have step-by-step. Next is the visual unboxing of each pad, right? Liner, day pad, night pad, long night pad. It shows all the different products, highlights the features, right? Like the wings and the size. And then it goes into the benefit explanation, which is brief but important mention of practical utility, extra protection to anchor value. So basically the difference in the protection of the pads as well, not just the size of them, but how each one holds up to a certain amount of liquid, right? As we were seeing next with the comparison education. It shows them side by side to visually explain the difference in size and absorbency, offering helpful context for decision making. And then finally going into the wrap up where it reiterates the value, kind of gives you an idea, closes with a friendly, informative tone, maintaining relatability. Again, no hard sell, but ultimately, like, comparison is another consumer psychology principle, but even comparison within the brand itself, right? Comparing different products within the same brand is a psychology principle, because we're able to say why one is better than the other for their specific use case, okay? So that is just that, like, very, very simple, right? And a way that you could apply this is, using this format to pair visual product demos with side-by-side comparisons of real-world use cases. Again, the more you compare it back to the real-world use case and the outcome and the desire, the better. I think this ad could do a better job at, linking it more to the desire and the outcome that the consumer actually wants to reinforce that and to help with the purchasing decision. But ultimately, next is when customers understand exactly what they're getting, especially with size, fit, or functionality, the hesitation drops and the conversions rise. And especially if you get a lot of products around, what is the difference between product X and product Y, right? If you get those questions, this style of ad is definitely one that could work well for your brand, okay? So those are the 3 ad styles that we've gone through today. We've gone through 3 different frameworks, elements of frameworks. I explained how, and why you should use frameworks. If you're interested in having a partner, a marketing team, come in and handle a lot of the ad creative, the media buying, the new customer acquisition for you, then there's a link below this video to my website. You can book a call and we'll have a chat about your business. If we can help you, we'll be upfront. We'll be the first to tell you that we cannot help you and that you're not a right fit for what we do specifically. We know what brands we work best for and who we can really crush it for. And if we can help you, of course, we will, outline what the next steps look like and just walk through that process. So that's all for this video. Hope you enjoyed this one and I'll see you in the next one.